Hey, good morning, everybody. I had some interesting commentary about a chef's knife that I did, so I figured I would just take a few minutes and talk about it. And I'm just going to let this roll, and whoever shows up, and that's cool. So, one of the things I know is a lot of people who follow me on Instagram or follow me on Facebook, they only know me from Forged in Fire, and that's cool, and I really, really appreciate that. Forged in Fire is a television game show. It's a lot of fun. It's mostly amateur bladesmiths making stuff within a very limited amount of time, so I really dig when people see that, and I think it's cool that people know me from that. But what I really do is I am a professional bladesmith, designer, consultant. And hey, everybody, I see John Sullivan, JP Sullivan, and Lynn Dancer. So I was going to talk about this knife. I sold it, but after a lot of really crazy questions, I guess a lot of people thought, hey, what's up, David Alberts, Jared, Shelly. This isn't Williams-Sonoma. Williams-Sonoma has some really cool knives in there. If you've been in Williams-Sonoma, you can go and look at the Shun knives or some of the Wussow knives. Really nice knives, but they're made in a factory by machines. There's thousands and thousands of them. Oh, I got a Shun knife. It's just like everybody else's Shun knife. The pattern is exactly the same as the other pattern. They have machinery that cuts these patterns in, and it makes it the same. It's the same. It's the same. It's the same. And that's how everything is out there. You wander around, you say, oh, that's the same as everything else. It's pretty boring. Pretty boring. So I had a lot of interesting commentary about, like, well, what's the steel? How long is it? Those are good questions. What's the steel? What's the handle material? And then they would ask me what the price was. So I told the price. It was $1,200. This is a $1,200 knife. This is not a really complicated structure. It's not a really complicated pattern, but it cuts just as awesome as if I made this out of mosaic, integral, and put some more exotic wood on there. So this is kind of like what I think of as a base model. This is like, but this is made to race. This thing goes fast. So I try and think about why. Like, why is it important? I never set the prices for my knives. I never said, hey, I think I'm going to charge whatever. I was just selling knives for what the market would bear. Well, what people would say, hey, that knife is worth $200. Hey, Robbie Bowman. So I would do that. I would sell them for $200. But then when I had 500 knives to make for $200, I couldn't do that anymore. It took too long. So I was like, well, we need to raise the price. What's up, BJ? So I would raise the price, so that made sense because these are made by me in my shop. I have knives that are mid-techs. I have knives that are designs that are made different places. But this is one that is made by me. And so it takes time, and time is the only commodity I really have. It's the most valuable commodity I have. So as time progressed in my knife making over the last 18 years, the market would increase its demand for the work, and I would need to increase the price that I was selling it for. So I did. And I never wanted it to be unstable. I always wanted it to be a value where someone was like, oh man, I got that piece, I love it. And that's important to me. So when I post a piece that's available, I usually sell it real quick. And I've been posting up these big brute deforged choppers, and they're a lot of fun, and I enjoy making them, and that's what I make available. But a lot of times I don't take someone's, hey, I want you to make me this knife with this pattern, with this handle, and this liner, and all that kind of stuff. there's a reason I don't do that anymore. I used to, and I'd spend all that time making that knife for them, and then they would get that knife and they go, well, I don't really like it because, you know, we put gold liners in there, but really I wanted a different kind of gold. I didn't want that kind of gold. I didn't want that. So what I ended up doing, I was making the knife they were dreaming about, but not really knowing, they didn't really know what they wanted. So, not to be arrogant, but I know what someone wants when they're talking knife and using and shape and look and style and design. I know. And so I make it that way because I have the experience, and that's the direction I go. So when I make a piece, I always tell them, say, if you don't like it, just send it back. But nobody ever sends them back. So I got a lot of weird comments, like when I said the knife was $1,200. You know, I was like, ooh, I get that. I mean, that's expensive. You know, I understand that that's expensive. But if it's like a really, really hard place to try and quantify, you know, what does that mean, expensive? A new truck is expensive. And then as soon as you drive it off the lot, then it's worth less, it's worth $10,000 less than you paid for it, you know? A lot of the garbage we buy is expensive. We go to Walmart or we go to Target or Belk or whatever, even clothes, you know, we're buying clothes that are just, you know, they're cheap garbage. It doesn't last very long, you know, it doesn't last for a year. I buy clothes sometimes, they don't last for a year. So when I find, that's right, Steve Katz, we sell ourselves. That's exactly what it is. And this represents a part of my life, my mind. But I think junk is expensive. I think cheap junk is expensive. And it's not something that I want to waste my time for. Because as soon as you get it, then it's like a bitter taste in your mouth. Like, I bought this. You know, you don't want that. It's terrible, you know. So making something good that you put your soul into, you put your mind into, you put your heart into, you put your sweat and you literally buckets of blood to learn how to make this stuff, and then you share it with someone. And then when someone gets that knife, I'm going to use like my friend Matt Hurst or John. John is one of the people behind Dion's Pizza out in the Southwest, if you know that. So John's got a good collection of my knives, and they're all used. And I went to his house, and he laid all of his chef's knives out, and they're all patinaed. They're all loved and used and cared for, and that is really important to me. So if you want something and because it's cheap, then you just threw your money in the garbage can. Basically, you said, I think I want something, and this goes for knife makers too. When you're buying equipment, I think of it this way too. So someone says, oh, well, yeah, I couldn't afford a Wilmot, or I couldn't afford a Wirtz grinder, so I bought a Grizzly. Great, and that's really great, because you just bought something for whatever, $400-600, and when you want to sell it, you get $100 for it. Or I bought a cheap anvil from Harbor Freight because that's all I could afford. Well, that's not true. It's not true. If you really care about what you're doing, or you really want to get into it, you devote some other junk you got to that thing. I'm going to use my friend Quentin Middleton for an example. Quentin is one of the most prolific kitchen knife makers right now in the country. He's made kitchen knives for everybody. Bobby Flay, I don't know, all these guys. He's made them for all these guys. And you know what he told me one day? I said, hey, do you have, he was coming to my house, and he was using my grinder, and he had a kitchen knife. You know, he's quit making all these kung fu weapons. He had a kitchen knife. I was like, oh, that's really cool. He's like, yeah, God told me to make kitchen knives. So after about a week of doing this, I said, Quentin, you have something you could sell, like some guns or something like that? And he goes, oh, no, but I got a gold coin collection. And I kind of got real stern with him. I was like, you go sell those gold coins right now, and you never come back to my shop again if you don't. And that week he sold those gold coins because he kept thinking those gold coins was his legacy. And I said, this is your legacy right here. And so he bought not one grinder, but he bought 2 grinders. And within 9 months, every chef in Charleston had one of his knives, and he would refine it, and he got better and better. because he bought something great. He learned his learning curve was shortened because he didn't go cheap. So anything you want that's good is not going to be cheap, you know. Hey, what's up, Terry? And there's just some thoughts on that, you know. I'm just kind of blurring this out live, and I don't know if I had enough coffee yet, but anyway. Hey, Roger Panuck. Hey, Sean Ellis. I really appreciate everybody having a look. Hey, Renata. Hey, Ryan Rowe. Hey, Will. But it's like a point I try to make with this is, yeah, it's stuff. But when you are going to take the time you spent to earn your money, or the time you spent to make something that you make, it could be a shirt, it could be shoes, it could be a hat, it could be food, it could be a knife. You realize that if I want a hamburger, I go to McDonald's. It's not going to be a good hamburger. It's going to be a cheap hamburger, but it's not going to be good. And you know, it's a simple thing. It's an old adage. And again, I didn't say, hey, I think I'm just going to throw some crazy price out there, but that's not what I do. I go exactly where I think the market will bear and what I've had the experience with in the past. And if you go look around on the internet, if you go look on eBay or any site, try and buy one of my chef's knives. Try and find one, because you won't find it. If I find it, I would buy one, but I don't find them. Barney Atkinson. Barney's got some of my knives. He's got some really big chef's knives with bronze guard. Ruthie Cohen, hello. Adam Stover, yeah. Yeah, I've got some stainless ones that I made too. I usually make the stainless ones out of AEBL, and that's different. They're different. But so this is kind of one of my favorites. And then I like to do integrals too. So integral has all the bolster and the blade is all one piece. So those are nice too. But anyway, I hope that makes sense. And when I'm doing this, if somebody throws some questions out there, I'm happy to answer it. But I just encourage. I had a lot of questions, and I'm not going to go back and answer. They were in messages about the knife, like how do I get the knife? Bam, there you go. It's available. You know, there's the knife, and the first person who says I want it, then that's the person who I get it to. I don't make a list anymore. I don't take an order list. I mean, I'll make a list and I'll put you on it, and if I offer it to you and you say, no, not this time, that's okay. I'll put a check by you. I was like, oh, we'll get to you later. But if we have some kind of weird thing going back and forth and I feel like maybe it's just wasting my time just to, I don't know, just something weird, sometimes I might just mark that person off the list. But it's not an order list, you know, so I don't go down the list in order, like, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I go to the squeaky wheel. So if I make something and I go, hey, I've got this available, and they go, oh, I want it, then that's who gets it. That's who gets the piece. And maybe that makes sense and maybe it doesn't. But I'm looking at some of the comments. Yeah, I make what I feel like making. I used to make what other people would suggest, but I've learned by designing over the last couple of years, and then watching the design trends, and then watching other people, you know, essentially even make my knife, which I don't even care. Then I know that the designs are good. I know that what I'm making works. It's not just because I say it, you know, it's because that's what everybody else says, and that's what's, you know, interesting. And then they work. So I'll do something, I'll send it out there and test it, or I'll take it and test it from Alaska to Nicaragua. You know, I've tested these knives. So anyway, that's all I got to say about it. Sometimes it's simple, sometimes it's complicated. This is not a super complicated knife, but it was a fun one to make. And I really appreciate everyone watching, and I hope you all have a great day. And I'll try and do more videos and talk about why I'm doing this and why this makes sense or why it works. And I'll keep working on camera angles better because the sun's over here shining on my big shiny head. So anyway, hope you all have a great day and have a good one. Bye.